Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a great privilege, as always, to rise on behalf of the people of Elgin, St. Thomas, London South. I remember so fondly the first real job I ever had. I was 14 years old. I did not get a glamorous job. I was bussing tables in a hotel restaurant in South London. I was occasionally doing room service if they needed someone to pitch in, and when they opened a new cafe, I got to try my barista skills, which were so subpar that I've ended up now as a Member of Parliament and didn't take my work pro. But I developed some incredible skills through that first job. I had a sense of purpose. I had a little bit of money in my pocket at the age of 14. I made connections there that helped me get other jobs. I worked for years in a variety of restaurant jobs, doing things that, again, were not glamorous, but gave me a little bit of money, gave me responsibility, and helped me on the path so that when I applied for my first job that had a bit of a higher barrier to entry, I had a resume that had on it years of work experience that I only got because there were jobs available for me starting out. Now, to go back to that very first job I had at the hotel, Madam Speaker, that hotel years later would start filing labour market impact assessment requests and hiring temporary foreign workers. There are youth that could not now do at the very same place what I did to start me out on my vocational path when I was a teenager. And this is something I am hearing about from youth all across my riding, that they are sending out resume after resume after resume and cannot get a job. And then they find that the place that wouldn't hire them has temporary foreign workers working for them. And I know the Liberal government will say that is not the way the system works, but there is a wide chasm between how the system is designed and how it is unfolding in real time right now, not just in my riding, but in communities across the country. The reason we are having this debate in the House of Commons right now is because there is a youth jobs crisis. Over 460,000 young Canadians are out of work. The unemployment rate for Canadian youth is nearing 15%. Youth employment is at its lowest point in over 25 years outside of the pandemic. Now, this is, in fact, a crisis, and it's one that I should say we do not learn about as members of Parliament simply because Statistics Canada has released the data. This has been, in my inbox anyway, Madam Speaker, a story that I've been hearing since I was elected. If I'm not hearing from the youth, I'm hearing from their parents saying my son or daughter cannot find a job. Now, to be clear, there are two seemingly contradictory trends happening in the workforce right now. I also hear from a number of employers who say they cannot find people to fill job postings that they have. There are some regional variations, most certainly, and there are some differences when it comes to sector. Employers are having a difficult time finding people to fill certain skilled roles. Well, in entry-level jobs, what we would traditionally refer to as the jobs in the service sector or the hospitality sector, these are ones where young people cannot get a foothold. They will send out dozens, hundreds of resumes even, and not get a single interview, let alone a job offer. Now, both of these, the abundance of jobs that employers cannot find people to fill in certain skilled trades, is a consequence of government policy from this Liberal government, and so too is the shortage of jobs for young people. These are both a direct consequence of Liberal government policy that has stifled growth, that has stifled mobility for workers, that has made it more difficult for immigrants who come to Canada with credentials to be recognized and to work, and has made it more difficult for young people to get a first job because of unskilled temporary residents filling jobs that have Canadian workers lining up to take them. Now, I represent in my riding a lot of farmers. The temporary foreign worker program has been a crucial part of the agricultural sector. But that is not the portion of the temporary foreign worker problem that we are seeing now drive young people out of having employment opportunities. That is this widespread expansion and abuse of the TFW program that has become so bad that those coveted first jobs are simply not available for Canadian youth. Temporary foreign workers have ballooned now to nearly 2% of the total private workforce in Canada over the last decade. Now, 3/4 of temporary residents in the workforce earn less than the median income for Canadians. Now, this means that we know that temporary foreign labor drives down wages. It depresses wages. It makes it more difficult for anyone commanding a market rate in Canada to get a job at a fair wage, because employers can find a temporary resident that is so grateful to have a foothold into Canada that they will work for the bare minimum. We have also heard of examples of abuse of the program, where even the stated dollar value, the stated wage of a temporary position, or a position rather for a temporary resident, is not the take-home pay. There are schemes and kickbacks. We have heard this happening. This is not to impugn all employers that use temporary labor, but it is to point out that there is a problem in the system that the Liberal government has allowed to fester. Now, it isn't just an immigration problem, but we cannot separate what is happening to drive young people out of the workforce from what the Liberal government has done on temporary foreign workers, a problem that has become so big the Conservatives came out with a very bold but very necessary position to scrap the temporary foreign worker program, while keeping a standalone program for the agricultural sector for jobs that genuinely cannot be filled, and we've seen this for decades. This is not just a trend in the last 10 years, but cannot be filled by domestic labor. So we do have a jobs plan for youth in this country. It is a plan that will open up the economy, that will eliminate the red tape and regulations that are making it difficult for employers, especially small and medium-sized businesses, to hire. It is a fix on the immigration system, which the Liberals have allowed to get so broken that only a Conservative government is capable of repairing it, making sure that Canadian jobs go to Canadian workers. This is not a radical proposition, but the Liberals treat it as though it is. We need to fix training. Right now, Madam Speaker, 1 in 6 workers with post-secondary credentials are unable to find jobs in the field in which they have been trained. We need to make sure that federal student training and funding programs are going towards employment-centered training. Education and training that directly will help young people get into the workforce. And lastly, we need to do more to bolster mobility, doing what we can to harmonize credential recognition from one part of the country to the other, making sure that an eager, keen young person with a credential in Ontario can go to Manitoba, someone from Alberta can go to Ontario, and vice versa, so that they can go where the jobs are, and also so that housing is built where there is a need for labor, so that housing prices, another consequence of 10 years of Liberal reign, so that housing prices are not making it so that no job will ever make you able to afford to live where you want to work. This is the legitimate, concrete plan, a plan that I am begging the Liberal government to adopt. They have enjoyed many of our other policies, whether it's on crime, whether it's on taxes, so let them take this as well. Because I want Canadian youth to have a future. I want them to have the same future that I had from the time I was 14. And it was, by the way, at that hotel job where I first met Stephen Harper, who was staying as a guest at that hotel. So perhaps that first job set me up on the path I took in several other ways as well. I want to close, Madam Speaker, with an email I got from a constituent a couple of months back, a man named Zane. He said, "I've spent the last 4 years actively searching for employment in fields such as administration. I hold post-secondary credentials from Conestoga College, and I volunteered for 3 years to gain additional experience. Yet despite my ongoing effort, I, like many Canadians, remain unemployed. The federal government promotes employment support programs and encourages workforce participation, but the real experience of job seekers tells a different story." Madam Speaker, will the Liberal government listen to the countless youth like Zane and many others across my riding and across the country and secure a future for young Canadians to get jobs and know that they have a future in this country? Thank you.
And comments. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I could spend a great deal of time talking about what the member has been talking about in regards to the whole immigration file. A lot of fundamental flaws in the comments that he's put on the record. I would suggest to you, Madam Speaker, but the real issue here before us is the obstruction that's being caused by the Conservative Party of Canada, led by their leader. It is causing issues that affect Canadians. 22 million Canadians, a tax break. First-time home buyers, a tax break. The getting rid of the carbon tax in law. Bill C-4 is important to all Canadians. The question I have for the member is, when will the Conservative Party stop the abuse of the things that they bring forward in order to prevent the type of debates that Canadians deserve and the breaks that they need?
The Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Madam Speaker, I'm relatively new to this chamber, but I've sensed a trend, which is that there is no shortage of words from the member for Winnipeg North on any issue imaginable. So not all of us in this chamber, especially new members, have had the opportunities that this member has to engage on issues in this place. I am here speaking about an issue that has been tremendously relevant to youth and their families across my riding. And this is not something that I'll just dismiss because it's inconvenient to the Liberal government's narrative. I will continue to talk about this and demand action from this government on this file because our youth deserve a future.
The Honourable Member for Niagara West.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And to my colleague, you know, I think what he's noticed probably in a very short time is Liberals are the greatest gaslighters on earth. And they talk about things to fix that they run around actually breaking. And this is just another great example is how they break the immigration system and then they come up with a plan to try and fix it. They break the system when it comes to red tape and regulations and they say, we can find a way to fix it. I just want to ask the question to the member, has he noticed a similar thing since he's been here?
The Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And to my honourable colleague, I'll say no. I noticed it before I got here, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to come here. Because we do see from this Liberal government a sense of breaking something and then showing up, and all of a sudden they are the ones we are supposed to trust with the solutions. And again, just on the immigration file, I'd be remiss to not point out that this Liberal government promised it would cap temporary foreign worker programs this year at 82,000. Now, in the first 6 months of this year, the Liberal government issued 105,000. And that's not even including what is going to come in the third and fourth quarters of the year. So they already broke the promise in the first half of the year and are telling us they've got the situation under control. Madam Speaker, through you, get real.
Questions and comments. L'honorable député de
The Honourable Member for Moncton. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his speech, which was fairly nuanced. I wonder if he would agree with what his leader said last September when he said Ottawa has to abolish the temporary foreign worker program if it really wants to help young Canadians find a job. How would he nuance the words of his leader?
Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I believe that the temporary foreign worker program has been so destroyed by this Liberal government, the only way forward is to abolish it. Now, I'm very clear, especially as the Member of Parliament for a lot of rural constituents and farmers, there needs to be a standalone stream for temporary labor for the agricultural sector. That is important, and that is part of a long-standing initiative in Canada that has been working. But temporary foreign workers to fill jobs in fast food and hospitality, forcing youth out of the job market, that is not what the program was for, and that has to stop immediately.
A very quick question from the Honourable Parliament. A very quick question.
Mr. Speaker, would the member then suggest that the temporary work permit extensions should not be issued to individuals that came from Ukraine and settling in Canada? Some, estimated anywhere from, let's say, 250,000 to 300,000 that have temporary work permits. Should they be renewed?
The Honourable member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
With respect, Madam Speaker, the member is obfuscating. That is not the cause of the problems we're seeing in the TFW program. It's the fast food and hospitality sector, unscrupulous immigration consultants, again, some of them, not all of them, that have abused this system to the point where our plan is very clear, Madam Speaker.